2,000 people laughing in a snowstorm. Stood up. And they said, you have
they
no
said-
right to call yourself a Canadian.
Like it truly was. Like
Funny.
you
Thank you.
were able to like.
And welcome back to another episode of 11 Wins Podcast. I'm your host, Ellevan.
My name is Winnie.
And today we have, this is royalty. This is Canadian royalty. We have a legend in the place, Winnie.
Yes, we are so excited to bring you our next guest, a legendary comedian in a league of his own. This man has had an incredible journey of making people laugh. He's sold out theaters for over the last 25 years. He's found himself working in film and television in Los Angeles and in Canada. He's won Comedian of the Year. You've seen him on Just for Laughs. He's written for 22 Minutes. He's got his own best-selling book. He starred in his own stand-up and sketch series, and you can catch him right now on Bell 5's One Man's Treasure. And he's truly the man who does not stop. Please give a well-deserved welcome to the renowned Ron James.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's one hell of an intro.
Well,
You
when
were
I was
one hell of a guy.
Yeah, holy shit, have you been in the entertainment industry? Everywhere, all around, in all sectors of it. I didn't actually realize that you started stand-up later.
I did, actually. I started out in Second City back in the early 80s in Toronto on 110 Lombard Street. I started out in the Torco, which was very exciting to finally get a gig. I was bartending for a year at, believe it or not, the Chelsea Bun at the Delta Hotel in downtown Toronto when they tore down the Warwick old hotel
Just off Yonge.
on Jarvis Street. All the hookers came in. And so I could barely see above the bar. I still had red hair then and freckles, and but it was a real lesson in survival. So I was making money and taking the classes at Second City. You know, you bartend, you waitress. You always have money in your pocket. And I was taking acting classes, and I graduated with a history degree from Acadia University in '79. But mostly, I majored in binge drinking and I minored in hot knives. It's like I say to people, I'm from a day where a hashtag was something you got from getting too close to the hash knives. So it had its benefits. I'm no damn good on it now. But then I got into Second City. I took the classes there. I got into the touring company. And thankfully, I've never had a Joe job since, although I came close to having to get them.
Really?
Yeah. There were a lot of lean. There were several very lean years. And
That's good to hear. I'm in a lean year right now.
It
Canadian
happens.
entertainment.
It happens, but you just got to keep your eyes on the prize and keep moving forward and keep the faith and continue to write and continue to believe that following your bliss is the journey you're supposed to be on. And anyway, I got in the Torco with a cast of like-minded people, and we traveled the highways and byways of Ontario and used to play Deerhurst. It was an idyllic time, and we're making $350 a week doing what we love to do, just a band of scrawny young satirists.
Come
and
on.
then got the main stage, and then did what people do after they leave main stage is, we did commercials and voiceovers and acting gigs and things, and then chased it down in Los Angeles for 3 years.
The sketch group, right? From Second City.
Actually, it wasn't all of us. It was Deborah McGrath and Linda Cash created a show called My Talk Show. Two excellent comedic actresses who are also Second City alumni. Oh. And they sold it to Ronnie Howard's company, and I just happened to be one of the people in the cast. Oh. But to make a long story short, we did the show. We shot 6 half-hour shows a week. It was sold to syndication, late-night show. Our picture was in Newsweek on Tuesday saying this is the cult show you have to tune into this year. It's the new Mary Hartman, Mary Hartman. That was on Tuesday. On Thursday, we were canceled, and on Monday, I was chest deep in a hole in Robert Urick's front yard pulling a tree out with my buddy's father's landscaping company.
Whoa.
Holy fuck,
So
dude, that's nuts.
I heard the wind howl in paradise for almost a year and went into unholy debt. But it was during that time, speaking of the lean times, that, and we were talking earlier about how you seem to channel your father's Newfoundland voice in your work. How
Yes,
he
sir.
was a riffmeister and always ready to
You're right.
spin off his feet. And my dad was the same, He could always work a room, a real natural.
Yes.
And it was then in those days that I throw my hat just to stay sane I'd go up to Ventura Boulevard coffee houses, man, because we lived off Topanga then. I threw my name in the hat with 35 other hopefuls. I used to, for amateur nights, right? So I'd get 5 minutes to read what eventually became my first one-man show up and down in Shaky Town.
Oh,
Had nothing to do with Second City people or anything. I was just throwing it out there for the sake of sanity. And I'm on the stage with people who were just trying to make sense of the world they're walking through. But it was great for me. And then finally, not getting my visa renewed, I moved home. I was married at the time. I had a daughter, and then I came back, and we got pregnant with our second. And that was 30, let me see, Kaylee's 36, Gracie's 32 in April. So it's been 32 years since I put up and down in Shaky Town now. Yeah.
Wow.
Holy. So you did that even though you had a daughter at home. You went and hit LA up for a couple of years.
No, they were with me.
Oh, they were with you?
Oh, yeah. My wife and daughter were there for 3 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so she was 18 months when we went and almost 5 years old when we came home. She went to this beautiful little school called Farm School that was around since the 30s with in this beautiful cocoon of eucalyptus trees. And I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful place. It's, and I mean, the spring comes like that. And then the whole place, smells like a spa.
Oh.
But I remember once we were there, and one of the things about LA is there's always famous people crossing your path.
Always.
Oh, yeah.
Crazy.
I know, yeah.
So my daughter, I had my daughter at farm school one day, and the kids were coming in, and this guy walked in. It was Richard Roundtree. And I went, "Whoa, Shaft." And he looked at me and said, "That was a long time ago."
That's so epic.
Anyway, so I came home and just started stand-up with some of the best content from that one-man show. I got some good reviews with it, and then started doing amateur night at the Laugh Resort, which is gone now, like everything. It's
Where was
a
that?
condominium. It's corner of Victoria and Victoria Street and Lombard.
Oh, nice. I
it
like
was
that area.
It was a great room.
Yeah.
It was a great room. There was 3 floors. Laugh Resort was on top. The middle floor had a pub, and the bottom floor had pool tables. Oh, wow. It's really nice.
I love that.
Yeah.
And then you transitioned to theaters. How long were you doing sort of the amateur and building your?
I did amateur
work?
night for. I got my first check in 1995. I shared a bill with a young fellow by the name of Barry Julian, who went on to write for This Hour's 22 Minutes, kept sending packages down to Colbert, and now he's got a room full of Peabody Awards. He's the producer for The Colbert Show.
Whoa.
Holy.
An excellent cat. My girlfriend and I went down to New York a little while ago, and I gave him a call. My buddy Chris Finn, an excellent stand-up, who wrote for This Hour for 17 years, and Rick's wrote for Rick for 17 years, Mercer. And This Hour for 7 or 8. He said, "Why don't you give Barry a call?" So we gave him a number. I hadn't heard from him in a long time. Called him up. Exactly the same. Just a great soul. Just really unaffected and just there for the work like he always was.
Yes.
And so, anyway, I got paid then. And then I stayed in the club scene for 5 years. And it was pretty
5
lean,
years.
And in those days, there wasn't as much cross-pollination as there is now between disciplines of improv and stand-up.
Yeah.
Yuck Yucks had its roster.
Yeah.
And
Were you showcasing for them?
No.
No.
I used to be able to play a Yucks club up in Sudbury. But then I learned an awful lot the winter I played Yucks, but they wanted me to be exclusive, and I'd lived through that feudal employ in Second City, where
Right.
you'd do corporate gigs and you'd find out that their markup was what?
Yeah.
You're excited because you're getting flown somewhere, and
They're charging $3,000 and giving you $200.
well, whatever you're getting,
Whatever it is.
But we paid our rent in those days, and we were able to work together and.
It was fun for the journey.
But it's once again, when you want to channel your rebel voice, the last thing you want to be doing is, regurgitating arcane corporate bullshit into the language of laughs, so the fucking button-down suits can laugh their hole off because you happen to mention their names a couple times.
Yeah.
But you lose perspective if they've flown you to the Bahamas or the Whistler, which is what the thing was. And we were all having fun.
Yeah.
But it was an illusion. It had nothing to do with the substance of the funny. We learned our craft.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? And it was a challenge to
Structure.
and building and getting laughs was
Being
still
a
there.
professional.
And it had its place and time. But the longer I stayed in stand-up, and it takes a long time to realize that you've got a right to your point of view. I mean, even television in its way can be censorious because it's corporate. It's like George Carlin said, I never worked well on TV, man. It's too corporate. And he also said, where would we be without HBO, which I think Canada could use. Anyway, each medium, not to disparage them all, but each medium at each point in time has its purpose.
And it's like a time frame, like social media right now, you can see that like we're trying to work it into, for me, I do like freestyle songs like,
Yes.
just to keep it going. And I'll do like 90 seconds, right? Like you try to write for a minute or 90 seconds because that's a reel
heat
has an
that up for you.
opportunity to perform.
Oh, really?
Or, like.
Why? Is that when they start to drift?
Yeah, and I mean, like, it's all measured down by the platforms. Like,
Oh, wow.
a reel can only be 90 seconds. So it's
Holy
a minute and a half.
smokes.
But then if you really want it to get served to people, make the clip 60 seconds.
That's really working within the box.
That's what I'm saying. So, I mean,
Wow.
coming from...
So there's constraints with each
Every-
with each context.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And like, even
Isn't that something?
improv, like, some games are longer, some games are shorter. And I think it's all just like, to your point about the craft, and sometimes, it may take away or delineate from like where you think you're headed, but it's like, oh, that's a nice little level challenge. Like, I'll play that game for a minute.
Well, I get that. I get where you're coming from with that because brevity. The brevity of a joke. Even though I have these long alliterative runs,
Which are amazing
Thank
and
you.
token and like so memorable to make your heart feel good. Sorry.
but you sweat over an adjective and you sweat over a preposition, and it's imperative that how precise Seinfeld's delivery is. How precise Carlin's delivery
I was
was.
going to say Carlin is like,
And I heard him speak.
Purposeful.
It must have been an interview at Vail from years ago. It used to be a big comedy festival there. He was being hosted by a young Jon Stewart, interviewed by a young Jon
Wow.
Stewart, actually. And Stewart looked like he just stepped out of high school, right? And that the grizzled old warrior
probably
he is
did.
now. I just think he's the best. Maybe he did. But Carlin was talking about the rhythm of words, the da-bum, ba-dum, ba-da-da-da-dum, ba-bum, ba-da-da-da-bum.
yes.
And I, as someone with having come from a culture where storytelling was imperative, like you.
the newfie, the flow, the
The flow, man, the flow, the language.
Yep.
It's everything.
And you're like the peripherals of just like taking them there and leaving them there, not drifting on, like you're able to like close
exactly.
the point and get it. Yeah.
Yeah, you always got to land on that solid spot. And,
Yeah.
and I never want to forget that the mandate is laughs. Although I found these days that as everything gets increasingly political, if for our own survival, and I can be as silly as the next person on stage if I have to be, right? And but there's so much more at stake now. And I find that
Like they can cancel you harder and quicker.
Yeah, what do you mean by that?
well, just in terms of not in terms of the craft, but in terms of Canada, the United States. It's just in terms of
The tension,
Of
the,
life.
the
Yeah,
social context
the
of
global
life,
economic, socioeconomic state.
everything. like
people's
Yeah.
sensitivity, and
And
This kind
they'll say to me from time to time, I'll get these things, and it's always the neocons, it's always the conservatives that are pissed off at this, for fuck's sake. Why don't you stick to comedy? Why don't
comedy is everything.
Yeah.
So you are.
why don't you stick to comedy, right? I don't, buddy. That's our job. a comedian's job is to speak truth to power.
To observe.
As well as one of the nice things that I learned about traveling the country, which I hope doesn't get lost in this polarity, was being able to bring people from all walks of life and all stratas and put them on the same page for the 90 minutes or 2 hours I'm on the stage.
Yes.
Right?
So much power in that, where we just forget for a minute and we allow you to be funny and take our attention, and that's the true spiritual gift of a comedian, of a jester, and it speaks to the health of a society of how far we limit or allow our commentators and comedians.
When we saw you last year, it was
good, man.
Like you were a puppeteer of the audience. Like it truly was. Like you were able to like contain the space, and just what you said, to take us all on a ride together where we felt connected to the 80-year-old person next to me, and I felt connected to
that's a third of my audience.
Whoever was. It was really magnificent to see you.
Thank you. I remember seeing a Dave Chappelle movie once a while ago, and this old lady, elderly lady rather, gives him a compliment, and he looks at camera and he says, "You got to be doing something right when the elderly folks like you." Yeah. And I thought, okay, because I have seen a collision of walkers at the exit. And I said that to my producer, who's an excellent guy, Terry McCrae at Terror Productions. He's been producing my live shows for 26 years.
Well done.
Nice.
Congratulations. Thank you.
That's
Keep
a
doing
huge
it.
partnership.
And he said, well, Ron, the reason they're 80 years old, we've been at it for 26 years, and they found you when they were 58.
Right.
So I thought, okay, fair
They're
enough.
still with you.
But yes, it's a wonderful feeling, and that's not to say that my entire show is political. I mean, because I don't think I'm smarter than the room. I think I'm as perplexed as the room at where the world is. And I think and I'm just trying to make sense of the chaos in the language of laughs, and to know that we're all imperfect, and just trying to put the pieces together. It's all fractured.
And just talking about it gives us all a little bit of relief that we're not perfect.
Yes.
And that the state of things isn't perfect, and there is work to do, and that can feel really overwhelming sometimes. But what you do is you're like, it's okay. Like it's we need to work at it, but it's okay.
It's an open gateway to healing. And
that's nice.
Yeah, like, I don't want to cut you off. I do want you to go, but I just got to tell you, you have actually brought. I've been waiting to tell you this moment since Winnie told me that she connected with you at the studio. That's
yoga. I go there to fix my back, but I'm an old guy standing in the corner trying not to pass wind and cursing.
He's the only one who swears in the yoga room.
I go in the front and pass wind so everyone knows it's me.
Son of a bitch!
And it's so cool that you do that. Like when I heard that's how you would come. That's so cool. But like when my dad he remarried and I didn't really get along too much with my stepmom at the time.
Ah, darn.
And there was definitely tension in our living rooms at times, and I want you to let us know from where you were on doing stand-up in the scene and then getting to here. We watched you when I was a teenager. I watched you on Comedy Central, and you must have been doing stand-up at JFL, and you did this bit on airplanes, and you brought so much light.
Oh, I know what that was. That was my first special. That was because I did 10 one-hour specials.
It was long.
That's
we were
insane.
all into you. We were all watching, and
that's my time. I got stuck on Air Canada for 14 hours.
And you were ripping them to shreds, and you took a very negative, painful point, a lot of comedians try to do and don't always nail, but you took this fucking brutal thing, and the vibes in the room were shit because it was just the tension of the times. Teenager, stepmom, yuck, dad who's high, and you
the tension in the room.
through the TV, you flipped the light on.
That's
Like,
nice,
you
man.
gave
Thank you.
vibration through, because you were so committed into it. And the fact that you were Newfie and my dad was Newfie.
Well,
and
actually,
you
I'm a
brought
Cape
so
Bretoner,
much.
and I was raised in
Are-
Halifax.
Are you? So
My
you're
father,
East Coaster.
My father's the Newfoundlander.
Okay.
Born in Burgeo.
Sorry,
in
Maritimer.
1932. He's gone now.
Oh, sorry.
And my mother's Cape Bretoner. I was born in Glace Bay, Cape Breton in 1958, and in the Coal Town Road, and then moved to Halifax when I was in grade 3, and then stayed there until I went to university, and then here. And but I had the best of both worlds. I had
So you had the Newfie dad.
I had Newfoundlanders who could. My father's profanity was just poetic, you know. By the lumped up, gentle German Jesus, Ronnie, you better start passing math. You sawed off little Christer. There's going to be a stranger in hell for breakfast by the Lord snapping arseholes. It was like it's like I said to people. I kept flunking just to hear the alliteration. And
So that's where you got it from.
I did, and he
there
was
we
a
go.
great joke man. He was a great joke man. But my mother was, my mother had that, had that Cape Breton Coal Town sucker punch. You know,
Oh.
she was really, and she still is. She's still alive.
She's a killer.
Yeah, 93 years old in July.
Okay.
And she has as many people, not many, but there were several people I had the good fortune to grow up with who really enjoyed being alive. And I find that
Vivacious.
that can be one of the things you lose in the pursuit of your craft because you're hearing no all the time.
All the fucking
so
time.
much.
And people only see that
Way
10%.
too many times.
They only see that successful time that you got yes, because that's how you got on the TV.
Yeah.
And it's like the 90% you have to fucking live.
It's way more than I think the average human.
Oh, it's way more.
Yeah.
It's way more. And you can't wear it, but you can't help but think, what do I have a fucking hairy ear growing out of my forehead? What is it? And
Yeah.
it must be doubly difficult for women.
Thank
For
you.
stand up,
Oh,
it is.
honest to God.
And
I'm-
acting.
It's everything.
tough.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And your shelf life is like, okay, what, 35? That's a shame. You know, there's a glue factory up the road, and
Oh my God, that's so true. Between the ages of 35 and 45, basically,
Yeah.
when you become the mom, like in acting,
we're taking you
you're
up there.
out.
Yes.
Yeah, it's getting better because
it?
there are more like leading lady roles and like cross gender bending in terms of just like women are leading in action movies now. Like that was never the case before, but still it's
And then you slice that down to comedic actresses in Canada. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not even talking about the States. Comedic actresses in Canada. I mean, there's some black belt comedic actresses in this
Unbelievable.
country.
Absolutely.
we are a plethora of
talent.
talent in Canada.
It's
It is
unbelievable.
wild.
Talent
Like,
house.
you know,
The fact that we don't have any star system breaks my heart all the time because we could be supporting our artists.
He'd
so
be a trillionaire.
trillionaire.
If we had a
Yeah.
proper
But then
star system, I'm just saying.
But then I wouldn't want to go dipping smelts in the spring, man. I mean, you know, my simple pleasures.
That's
But money,
so
you
beautiful.
know, that doesn't. I mean, money and all that crap. I mean, I know famous people, and a rainy Monday for them is a hell of a lot rainier than one for us. But yeah, to a certain degree, it is because it's such a mandate to stay on top. You know, and
Be a winner.
Look, I used to, right? I mean, the days I was on the CBC, I mean, I was like an albino foster child they found in a shoebox on the front porch. You know, it's like, oh, if I bring him in, put him in the fucking family picture, but for Jesus' sake, can he stand in back? Can somebody holds a sign and fucking, meanwhile, the stars there are fucking, are curing crippled kids. What's the matter with you, Bob? Fuck, that's not a limp. Come on, straighten the leg out. And I'm just,
So you were You were in.
I
you
was
were
on that. They
adapted?
didn't even know I was on. I was bounced around the dial 7 times. But then I'd have my specials, and one of them would go, "Oh, your numbers were very good." What do you mean very good? We did 1.3 million viewers every New Year's Eve. You Freon fueled Harridan. Why don't you just fucking give us the plug that we deserve, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But you can't. But the beauty of those specials, I got to work in a writing room I got to go in every day with Paul Pogue and Scott Montgomery to write my last 4 specials. I wrote the first 5 myself. I used to tuck myself into a crib in the summertime. I'd go into Enter the Picture Productions, the producer Lynn Harvey, after my first one, Roll Between My Ears. Then Anton Leo has his own company now, got a great show on Crave. He was a fan of mine from the days I used to do radio spots with him for $350.
Yep.
And so he got promoted up to CBC, had faith in us. And then we did Quest for the West. We did Quest for the West, West Coast Wild on BC, Back Home, and then Manitoba Bound. Then the series came, and then in the series, I went into the writing room every day, run by the very talented, multi-award-winning Gary Campbell, who's got a show on now. He was a head writer. Paul Pogue, Scott Montgomery, Gary Pearson was in there, Mark DeAngelis, Alana Teresa, who went on to work with that great show in the States from the woman who was the reporter for Jon Stewart. Oh gosh, I'm sorry, I don't remember. And
You were with the crew.
And Teresa Pavlinek, Teresa Pavlinek and Jen Whalen, who went on to create her very successful shows with her new one that's on there now. So every day I went into a room where I was surrounded by a tribe
Other killers.
a tribe of killers.
Yeah.
A tribe of, I was in the circus.
Yeah.
Right?
Awesome.
To quote Gerald Lunds, we're in the circus, Ronnie.
And they all felt like that about you, too.
Oh.
Like, they're talking about you, guaranteed.
Well,
because you guys were all part of the same crew. That's big.
And it was so hard, it's so hard, the work. You live and you breathe it, and we had 5 departments, and we delivered. And then you have to deal with this neglect by a network. And
Bureaucracy.
But then, once you're out of it and you reflect back, what is important is the experience of the work.
The
And it
experience
has
of the
to be.
work.
Thank you.
It has to be.
Thank you.
And then when there's no work, what you have to rely on, and I said in the beginning, is to maintain the faith, the fortitude, and the discipline to follow your bliss to its logical conclusion.
Sounds like
And just-
Bashar.
it's all about the journey, not the grail at the end of the trail. That's all.
That's
Thank
so
you.
good to hear.
You just blessed
'Cause-
us. We needed to hear that.
Yeah,
Oh, I was-
you get caught up. Like I mean, in my first year and a half of stand-up, I've only now been consistent at it for 3 years.
Yeah.
But in my first year and a half, I was like, outcome. Like, I need to do good. It was like, it wasn't let me make them laugh. It was like, let me do good for you guys.
Interesting.
And then I had this like moment when I was riding my bike where I was like, you don't need to do good. You need to like write a nurturing, hilarious set that you feel is funny.
Bingo.
Like that. And so that's when I was kind of my first pivot. And but the desire for some specific type of outcome my whole career, because I've been acting since I was very young. So
Okay.
that desire, it just feels like it's always kind of looming over me, like you haven't done what you thought you were going to do, or like,
well, that's- Well, the messianic dream that we've all had, right?
Yeah.
That somehow will, messianic seems like a strong word. But I
Like
mean,
Masonic?
Masonic, right? But this thing about that gets to, and this is something that we all have, I think, as performers, is waiting for others to validate your worth,
Fuck that.
and that's where that's what we have to grow out of.
We hope you're enjoying this amazing conversation with this incredible guest.
Always a dope time, but Win, what else do we have on our channel?
We have stretch-alongs where you can stretch with me in meditations.
What? And I do food videos. I cook dope recipes at home that you can make at home, and we cover local gems.
So after this conversation that you're listening to right now, go check out some of our other videos.
Thanks for subscribing too. It's growing.
And it takes a long time.
Yeah.
Life is all about the long haul. But the ability, and you watch these great stand-ups. I watch them, and I go, man, you're fearless. How come you don't care? Clearly, you watch a great one and you go, well, you didn't hone your chops doing corporate gigs for Weston Foods. Well,
But maybe
don't make fun of the fucking pears that come from Mexico.
Oh my God. That's...
the imports.
But
Yeah,
it's-
that's so
right?
true.
Yeah.
Because they call it out.
But you're always, and that's why I don't get corporate gigs anymore, and I love that fact. But I did them when I had to do them. But they're also sensitive now, and they can't take a joke. And it really is. It is quintessentially patriarchal, where don't speak up at the table.
Right.
But anyway, when you watch the real ones, like the great ones, right, and even the ones that are around today, it's man, oh man, you're true to yourself and you're true to your voice. I remember once coming back from Just for Laughs, and I was reading the Montreal Gazette. There was a fella sitting beside me on the bus going to the airport. It was Zach Galifianakis. And I said, hey, man, they quoted one of your jokes. I said, we got 2 jokes quoted. Isn't that great? And he was very quiet. He goes, oh, really? And we had the gala together at Theatre Saint Denis, which is a very intimidating space.
Like it's
at the best of
grandiose.
times. Yeah, it's really big. And the balcony zooms at you like the prow of a destroyer.
Ooh.
Right? So it's right there in your solar plexus.
Wow.
And everybody who's anybody is there. And it took me 6 performances, maybe 7 performances there to be finally comfortable in my own skin. I always felt like a stranger in my own country.
Okay.
Because
Montreal.
Well, everybody who was anybody was there.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'll finish Zach
Sorry.
Galifianakis' story, then I'll tell another one. But Zach Galifianakis goes, oh, man. I said, whoa, this is from your show. And I said, he goes, oh, that was really intimidating.
Oh, yeah.
I said, what? He goes, the size of that theater. And we had just finished the first year of the Halifax Comedy Festival, where of 1,000 people in the Rebecca Cohn, where the laughs came at you like a rogue wave. It was like, and then I said, what, you've never played a theater that big before? And he said, no. I said, I just play the club. I said, well, how many does your club hold? Well, last week we were sold out with 35. So, you know what?
He was doing the Purple Onion in Vancouver.
It doesn't matter the size of the room.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. What matters is what we're just talking about. The faith that the work you're doing is strong enough in your own heart than wondering whether the sour-faced person in the
Right.
third row gets you.
So do you think that
Yes.
because I bombed the other night, so I'm going to use myself as an example.
I'll share bomb stories with you anytime.
And I've been getting good at bombing. Like I really feel
Excellent.
like
It's so much fun.
Yeah.
If you embrace it,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
fantastic.
yeah.
it.
But
Fuck it.
this one hit a nerve or something, and I was just in a foul mood
Were
afterwards.
they heckling you, or were you just
Nope,
not getting laughs?
I was just not. It was silent. It
Oh,
was
darn.
so silent.
Oh.
More silent than I've had in a while.
That's a loud noise.
It is a loud noise. And I really, the next day, we were talking, and I was questioning my entire existence.
Oh, see, it's so hard.
But and I was like, when do I give up? Like, how do you know when to stop trying?
You just move through. I think it's part of the process, right?
Well, you move through. You move through. I don't have an answer for when you give up, because I came close to giving up many times.
Okay.
It's
to know.
funny, when I was down in L.A., I was looking at things, and I said, Jesus, honey, I should take out American citizenship so I could become a forest ranger, and now I'd be out of a job. Because they just fired them all.
Yeah.
Holy
Right? But it's
shit.
like Jim Carrey said, too, when he tells that story about his father.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful story that he tells about his dad. It's so poignant and so bittersweet that his father wanted to be, was it a saxophone player? Yeah, a musician. He was a great saxophone player. But instead, he gave it up to feed his family and become an accountant. Then he got fired as an accountant, and he had no and they
No
were living
work.
in the car.
They're homeless, yeah.
Homeless,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of, and he said, so the point is, you might as well fail at something you love to do than bail and think that that's going to be the solution.
Security.
That being said,
Thank you.
if when you're coming to the club, you feel worse than you do, it makes you feel bad. I was always excited when I had a new page of content at the Laugh Resort. And I remember talking to
You're at the gym.
Yeah, you're at the gym, man. And I remember talking to a kid, a guy who used to play there all the time, and he goes, "Oh man, here I go." It was an amateur night, so I was doing a set in an amateur night at the tail end. They used to put us up there, and he said, "I hate coming in for this. I hate it. I hate it," and he never did well. And I thought to myself, if this isn't what defines you, if this isn't what elevates your life force, then you have to reevaluate why you're doing this.
Yes.
That
Nice.
being
You're
said,
so tuned in. That is so beautiful.
but
That's a great answer.
well, thank you.
For me,
Well,
specifically.
but you just have to, and that doesn't mean that. Of course, as an actress and as a performer, that you won't get a chance to use that skill you've been working on in another context.
That's
you know?
right. Yes.
Like I was
Take your goods.
I got the boot from Second City. Every time I opened my mouth, I was told to shut it. Every time I shut it, I was told to speak up. It was a political hornet's nest in those
How was
days.
that? How were you
Right.
in school?
I was funny.
Yeah.
I was always funny.
Were you
Then I got-
distracting?
Oh, fuck yeah.
It's even worse.
I mean,
So
I
similar.
remember, well, that's when,
clown.
that's when that's when Mr. Baker used to phone my house. Some unibrowed, old school public teacher used to phone your house if you made lower than 65 out of 100 on a math test.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that test would be burning a hole in my pocket like the map of Bonanza.
Buddy.
I just lost everybody who's watching this podcast.
No. I remember getting that call constantly.
Oh!
Just like the principal's office is in the principal's office
You
again.
want to run away?
Well, my grandfather did run away from school in grade 3. So apparently that's like what I have in my lineage. So
Did he?
I dropped out.
And he never came. Yeah, he never
Oh,
went
you
back.
dropped out of high school? Or?
Yeah, after like grade 11, me and
Oh,
my
yeah.
mom went through a really rough stretch.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I held it down and stayed in school while we were like homeless. And then once she got
darn.
a job and got a place, I was
You
like,
guys were homeless?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
I wrote an album about it. I'll send it to you.
Please.
And I would look at the
More
school
stuff
again.
for you to listen to.
Oh yeah, here's a couple more podcasts and a couple more songs.
That's
Got a
all
whole
right.
laundry list.
That's
right?
all right.
But I couldn't look at that system that wants to shush you up for the sake of paying attention to the curriculum. I couldn't look at this placated version of life anymore after I had just seen the real world of like, motherfuckers don't care about you unless you bring value.
He
and we
was
need
also
money
in
to
like a
live.
low budget
Downtown
like,
Vancouver
public
school.
high school.
But I looked at it and that bureaucracy
So
of
that built-in bias toward you that you're going to amount to nothing is right there.
Exactly. Exactly. Follow our steps right to where? Like to nowhere. And then, but that's when it really truly broke for me when all those systems that are placed on you to shut you up and break that natural talent of yours, whether it's the political hornet's nest or whether it's just a structure that is patriarchal or whether it's just like some form of institutionalized thinking, I'm like, oh, I'm not like turned off. I guess what do they call it now? Autistic? Like I haven't turned off that free will discernment. I never turned that. So and so I dropped out and I just started doing stand up at 16 actually.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So
Oh, boy,
in
that's when
Vancouver.
Foley started stand-up when he was 16.
Yeah.
Yeah, Foley did stand-up then. So did Eddie Murphy.
Fuck yeah.
Eddie Murphy was doing stand-up at 16, but I think that cat came out fully formed.
Yeah,
as a comedian.
yeah,
He-
for
like,
sure.
like Dave Chappelle, they've just always been perfect.
And Robin Duke, a friend of mine in Women Fully Clothed, by the way, she, Catherine Greenwood, Jane Eastwood, and Teresa Pavlinek, four very funny women. When Robin was on Saturday Night Live, she said Eddie Murphy came into work every night happy to be there. Happy to be there. Confident in his gift, right?
Yeah.
And
Share the blessing.
when you say what they call it now, what you said,
Autism.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I'm full blown ADHD, and
No.
now they call it now they call it ADHD. Back then they called it Jesus Christ. There's something wrong with him.
Yeah.
So, but this is not to say that I didn't have enlightened teachers who got a kick out of me and encouraged
Yes.
me. And I learned how to work within the context of, I'm good with a disciplined structure. You have to be. And and I had a prof at university, Evelyn Garbury, who studied at the Dublin Theatre in the old days with Carol O'Connor. And we put plays on and stuff, and she saw my potential.
Is this
And
when you were doing history?
I took a minor in English 267 at a KDU, and we did Our Town and Charlie Brown
Nice.
and a Shakespeare play, Henry V and stuff.
Sick.
And so which I fell asleep in. I missed my call all the time. Jesus Christ, that guy, hurry up with that monologue. I'm hungry. Anyway, but I did have encouragement, right? And not everybody was telling me to be quiet.
That's
Good.
So that was
It's
very.
important.
Excuse me. So that was very.
That can break a spirit of a
Oh
young
my
person.
gosh! Yeah, it sure can. It sure can.
Well, your discipline shows in your work, obviously, because you do a 2-hour show and you don't stop talking the entire time. But when something that really impacted me, you took a photo, I think it's still on your Instagram, where it was like 45 pages of handwritten or typed, I can't remember, and it was your entire show.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's why you're so great. It's not just like, because some of these motherfuckers out here, the new ones are like, oh, I think of it.
No,
and
no,
then
it's
I
lazy.
go
That's
I
lazy.
go on stage and
It's
talk
lazy,
about
lazy,
it.
lazy, lazy. A pilot doesn't do that. A doctor doesn't do it. A lawyer doesn't do it. Somebody who's preparing for a case at court, he doesn't wing it. A judge doesn't wing it.
Yeah.
Why are we supposed to be the exception to the rule of professionalism? Why are we supposed to be that exception? It's galling. It's galling.
Do you think it's because some people are just like, because you could go on stage and not do any of your material and talk to the crowd, and I'm sure you'd be fine, just like this conversation now, like you've been having us in stitches the entire time.
Natural.
I'm not there yet, I would say. So do you think sometimes people are relying on their sort of natural skill set of just being able to make a crowd laugh and not necessarily have to work on material?
I guess so.
Because there are, like, Matt Rife kind of got famous for.
Who's that guy?
He's very. I think he's like 22 or something, but he blew up on TikTok and then he's just been selling out.
Great, good
all
for
over
him. Save your money, Matt, because it doesn't last forever, bro. You know, those fucking underwear model good looks are gonna fucking sag someday, bro.
That's true.
And one of
will.
these days you'll be 67 and realize that life is all about the long haul. And I hope you've saved your money and you're continuing to write and that your fan base stays with you. Because look, but this is Canada, man. It's a different ball of wax.
It is.
And I kicked my ass years ago about not going down to America. And then I had an epiphany once. It was in the days that we were selling out the cold, wild West. And it's fantastic. We were having encore dates at the Winspear Center before the American economy tanked in 2008, and every comedian's manager in the States said, there's a country above us you can tour, which is why I'm 2 weeks on the other side of Seinfeld in Sydney, Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, and Summerside, PEI. Only
good.
he's playing arenas, and I'm playing theaters, and he's taking the jet, and I'm taking the ferry. But anyway, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you have to understand the context of Canada versus America. He's got 375 million people, 380 million people south of that border. You've got 40 million people here.
Yeah.
You can have half that country in America disliking your act and still have 7 times the population of Canada buying a ticket to your show.
There we go.
So I had an epiphany one time, and when you put 3 years in California, you remember those eucalyptus springs and those forever indigo nights. And friends at poolside and all those illusions of paradise.
Ooh.
And then Vegas. You hear the money people are making in Vegas and everything else, and of course your worth here, not so much anymore, and it's going to change a lot now that the threat of being their 51st state is coming, or is here. That you really haven't made it unless you've played America and done Letterman, which I never did, and done the talk shows, which I never did. And your constantly worth is measured by how successful you've been there. And then one night, I was at an encore show at the Windspear Theater in 2006 with 2,000 people in a blizzard, minus 40 blizzard.
Fuck,
and I came out of that and I thought, wow, 2,000 people laughing in a snowstorm in Edmonton.
Come on, yes.
Sounds exactly the same as 2,000 people laughing in Las Vegas when it's warm. And if that's the purpose of what it is that we do, then that's what needs to be embraced.
Oh, my God.
But you don't get there unless you're willing to do the hard work. And as you say about bombing,
Go through
hey,
it.
man, I stepped into stand-up, Winnie, several times after Second City before I realized I had... Look, I got booed off the stage at a Mississauga sports bar. My wife and I at the time had just come back from a whale-watching expedition in Tofino, and that's what I was opening with. I was doing, and I got booked. Used to be a club on Front Street called Arbuckles. I'd done 3 shows there, and the lady who ran it booked me in Mississauga. And the tape exists somewhere that's called The Last Stand-Up, and I was supposed to do 45 minutes. And at about the 15-minute mark of my set with no laughs, and there's no spit in my mouth. My tongue is stuck to the roof of my mouth.
Dry.
The Nile floodplain has appeared on my palms. The Nile used to flood all the time in the Bible, and the Nile flooded, and the Jews ran, or whatever, So anyway.
The managers left, you mean? The Jews ran?
No, but. So anyway, I'm hearing this. You suck, get off the stage. And it happened, and then the whole thing with these roided up dudes and their fucking bleach blonde puck bunnies. You suck, get off the stage. And I still remember at the back of the room going, get off. And then another time, I put this story in the book. I was in Scotland at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. And I'd taken my one-man show there up and down in Shakytown after...
That's cool.
Thank you. After one successful gig at Halifax Comedy Festival,
Nice.
did well. Thinking, fucking
You can
ready for the world, really.
Fuck yeah.
Only a matter of time before the fucking British find out what I'm all about.
Yes.
Did well for Maritimers.
Yeah.
So over I went. And I was in this study hall. That was 1,500 acts. Every street corner was filmed with a busker doing something. I watched a rummy take a shit in a hat before I realized it wasn't a show. And I'm throwing the chestnuts out now, Winnie. Anyway, just for the audience, Anyway,
These clips are going to be so great.
Jesus, I have a rehearsal, right? So because I had lighting cues and stuff, and up and down to Shakytown, it's about a 1-hour show about my time in L.A. Anyway, I've got a mortarboard out front of my 3 heads on it, of 3 different faces of L.A. The one where I'm happy, the one where I'm pulling my hair out, and the one where I'm sad. Anyway, I walk out after my first rehearsal, and it's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and there's a big ball of vomit on my middle head. Some fucking Scottish piss tank had hurled on my face.
Oh my God.
And my show hadn't started yet. And I remember thinking, I don't have to see the Oracle of Delphi to know that this run's going to suck.
Oh, no.
I mean, that's the kind of omen that would have turned an Iron Age army back, right? And then you're allowed to premiere 5 minutes of your show at this venue called the Bear Pit. And it's basically Thunderdome.
Oh, my God.
There's no air conditioning. And Scotland was in the heat wave of a headlock. And everybody still smoked then.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
So they're all loaded and smoking. It was Thunderdome. The only thing missing was a midget on a pulley going back and forth in front of me. And I'm going to...
Probably would have done better if there was.
And that's sweet. I would have. Oh, look, Ronnie's brought the midget. He's brought somebody taller than him. Oh, good thinking. Good thinking. And but there was Rich Hall, an amazing comedian, was up on the stage, and the stage is a little square, and they're all around you, and he kills. He kills.
Oh, yeah.
Just destroys.
He got on the right side of that Scottish energy.
No, he's right. But he's been over in Britain for years, right?
Yeah.
And he kills. And then a Canadian comedian who everybody should see, who I've always been a great fan of, Mike Wilmot, who was huge in England at the time. Cool. He gets up and just slaughters them, slaps them silly. Woo! And I get up, and I hadn't learned how to break the fourth wall yet in stand-up, which is everything.
You were just doing your material. That's
Didn't
tough.
know how to throw it out the window. Didn't know how to throw it out the window. Didn't know how to let it go and just go.
Yeah.
And now I've got the luxury of doing that.
Yeah.
Because, it's pretty hard to riff with somebody in row G when the theater goes all the way to Z.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's not how you're going to build a theater act. But you have to learn how to do that in the clubs.
Yes.
And I'm a little rusty at it. But in those days, I didn't have a clue how to do it.
Yeah.
And I remember the opening line at Shaky Town was 3 years ago with family in tow. I hopped the 747 Conestoga wagon to travel the well-worn jet streams west for blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden I hear, "You fucking suck!"
They didn't understand what you...
The same thing starts again. Because I'm following...
Poetry.
I'm following tsunamis.
Yeah.
I'm following just fucking assassins.
Yeah.
And this can of beer comes sailing
Oh my
over
God.
through the air, and lands on the stage right in front of me. And I remember thinking, that's a really good throw. The next one's going to hit me. But I got warned. The guy looked at me and he said, the bear pit is pretty unforgiving. And I said to him, nah, it's okay. I just did really well in Halifax. What a tool. Hey?
Isn't that funny?
That's okay. They don't be back home. Anyway, you have to be bloodied in battle.
Yeah.
You have to suffer the crucible, and the crucible isn't once. It's many times.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's many times. And you know what? I'm telling you, I've had shitty gigs in the last few years. I have. Yes, sirree, some corporate gigs where, they're getting up and going to the can, or they're looking at the skill saw display, right? Or they've got some room set up where there's, who put this room together?
Yeah.
Where there's an empty dance floor in front of you, and the audience is 100 yards away.
Oh, my God.
It's awful. You can't
just
corral that.
They don't know.
So I still have crappy gigs.
You're never too good to escape
No.
that, eh?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I
But
feel-
anyway,
But not in
when-
theaters. You don't
no,
experience
no,
that.
no.
They're there to see him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what's fun. When the people are there to buy your ticket. But I had two walkouts last time when I teed off on Polyev, and I hit Justin too. Had some jokes on Justin. Justin said that it's not my job to be popular. Well, by those standards, buddy, you're hitting it out of the park. And a couple of jokes, here, there, and the other thing. And then I hit on Polyev. I just happened to say an unctuous, craven political opportunist born with a face you'd love to punch. And
That's just true.
And
That's a whole true sentence.
That's when two guys got up in the front row, and I just had a run on the defense of women's rights in your province, Alberta.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the rural-urban divide in Alberta is 800 years or so, right? I say, Jesus, man, that's it's where once you get out of Calgary and you head down south, that's where science is fiction and walking on water is fact. Right?
It can be.
The Bible Belt of the...
And it's beautiful country.
Gorgeous.
It's mesmerizing, beautiful country.
Yeah.
Raptor Valley, I used to listen to hymns when I was driving through there, man. Annie and Tyson. And
There's not a lot of debate in Alberta. It's kind of just like a one mentality.
And come around these
and
parts,
no one
man.
really.
I always tease them. I say, you guys have more in common with Quebec than you realize. Right? But I remember when
That's true.
But this is the kind of polarity that we can't have anymore. We have to be unified. And that's one of the great signs about how we're breaking down provincial barriers, man. Quebec's on board.
Yes.
I mean,
overall, the polarization, especially over the past half decade, has been weaponized for sure. And you can see that and you understand kind of what game politics is playing, period. And it leaks into the media and it leaks into all these different sectors of people's lives that cause us to disagree. And when you have someone like you, who I think is just supposed to make people chuckle, you ascend and you show up for the opportunity to observe what's really going on and calling it out. I think that's part of the good healing energy, to see when you poke at who you fancy your leader and you want to leave a show that you paid for tickets. All right, so we need to do some work on this, because same with people me and Winnie disagree about a lot. We take pride in just fucking disagreeing and like still being okay.
Yeah.
And as a country and as a family and as a city, you make your choice, that's fine. And there's a lot to be said for the conversation that has to be done for that, but for you,
But
to
in your heart of
use
hearts, you don't want to lose that room. You
No.
know, I mean, you don't. I
Yeah.
mean, because I've always respected. I mean, if somebody's paying, with tax, $80 to see a show of mine,
Yeah.
they deserve to laugh.
Yeah.
I mean, they deserve to be represented. But this is the thing
But you're
that
being comedy. You're doing what you promised to do.
that's it. And I think people want you to stay in this comfortable place of making fun of fucking Tim Hortons and hockey jokes.
Thank you. Yes.
And there's more to us than that. And there's way more to us, and there's way more at stake than these traditional hallmarks of who we are.
Yeah, it's very.
Right.
And
Yeah, you bring it live.
But at the same time too, that's why. I mean, the entire show isn't overtly political. That's why, over the 2 hours, you have to, at least I do, have you spread out an eclectic buffet. So you can have the plumber and the professor, who happen to be sitting side by side, be represented at
Yeah.
different aspects of the show.
That's the power.
So pro.
But
That's
people
beautiful.
people are ready to leave now
Yeah.
on the first thing that might be.
They disagree. They disagree with.
Well, it's interesting to think about what they're feeling inside their body. Like, you say a joke, right? Because you're a comedian and you observe and you say something potentially truthful, but you make it comedic. And someone in a seat goes, I don't feel safe anymore.
Yeah, they're scared almost.
That's
or they're
what's going
reacting.
on, right? They
interesting.
feel like, this guy isn't who I thought he was, and now that is like challenging my sense of being.
Well, and if they only had patience, there were 5 minutes of great fart jokes coming up.
Yeah. And can I ask you, do you know for sure that they left because of the joke?
Yeah, they stood up. And they said, you have
they
no
said-
right to call yourself a Canadian.
Okay.
And I said, you better hurry up. You're going to be late for the screening of Triumph of the Will. And
Okay, so you.
Okay, so you knew.
You
Okay.
knew, but okay. This brings
you
so
have no right to call
interesting.
yourself a Canadian. Yeah, it is. It is, And I get it a bit on Facebook from time to time now, but the algorithms are so,
shows you what you want.
Right, like I weighed in support of the forest rangers that all lost their jobs because of that hairless techno tyrant and Doge and his nerd Reich that are
Was this part of
at
your-
his beck and call.
Is this part of your riff? Because recently.
No.
Okay, because you just recently had a clip do really well, right? Like
Yeah, I
kinda
did,
go
yeah.
viral.
Yeah.
What were you I'm not to cut you off, but was this all kind of part of the same thought?
No,
Okay.
it's a new one today. Anyway, someone said, "Are you an American or Canadian?" And I thought, wait a second now. I'm a citizen of the world. And I lived in California, for 3 years. And, I camped in Arches Park driving back from L.A. to Canada. I've been to Yellowstone. I've been to Jackson Hole. I've been to Acadia National Park in Maine. I've been to Joshua Tree several times. And, growing up watching Disney, I mean, when I was a kid, this is where we loved America. The Beachcombers coming on Sunday night just meant Walt Disney was over. It's reality now. Time to do the math homework. And there was many things about America that I adored.
Yeah.
And I remember when we were at Cubs, we learned the song of Smokey the Bear, right? I still remember the lyrics. Smokey the Bear, Smokey the Bear, howling and a growling and a stiff in the air. He can find a fire before it starts to flame. That's how we call him Smokey. That was how he got his name.
Hey.
So, but and they'll say, why are you weighing in on that? I said, because I care. If this is a global medium that we're in, you care. You care that the world is swinging hard right.
Yeah.
You care that hairless techno-tyrant is in Germany with his Nazi salutes endorsing those people. You care that Ukraine is being butchered by Putin. Right? You care. And so people want you to stay in your lane. And so, but the reality is, in terms of this eclectic buffet I spread, right? Remember, there's lots of different things you can laugh at.
Yeah.
And just because I'll say something about one politician or another doesn't mean I dislike you.
For sure. 100%.
But that's what's happened.
Some
these
people
days.
attach.
It's become so tribal.
It's tribal.
Totally.
I was going to say, it's very tribal, and it's like half of people, exactly half basically, feel attacked at all times in any given room. Because me and Winnie commented on a lot, even navigating the stand-up scene. It's been a while since I've done, I mean, stand-up specifically, but when I moved to Toronto, it was music rooms. So it was more just kind of about the craft or the talent or the songwriting. But with these comedy rooms, it is ruled into little cliques of rights and lefts.
And this isn't. You hit the nail on the head. And this isn't exclusive to a right-wing philosophy. The left can be very sanctimonious as to where you're about to go.
Well, where the cancel culture comes from. That the snake eating its own tail. It's like, okay, we got half of it right. We should have some consequences with people doing fucked up shit. Now, do we need a flavor of the week rifle and cancel people for the sport of it?
I had
Jesus.
Yeah, I hear you, man.
So there's with both sides, and like it's.
I had a club set was it last summer? I think it was last summer. And they were reacting to the setup. And I looked at them. I said, whoa, what's the groan? Wait till the joke comes.
Yeah, you haven't even finished the thought.
Give me a minute.
Yeah.
Just the subject.
Yeah.
And but what we're talking about now too is growth.
Yes.
I mean, how do you grow as an artist when the world on the left and the right has become so censorious?
And this is extremism. It's both sides extremism.
And I think that's why people. I heard. Oh Jesus, what's Buddy? That actor that's buddies with Woody Harrelson.
Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, I heard him say that we want centrist. We need to come back to the middle again.
Mm-hmm.
And
The focus is just to connect, period.
I've got a buddy out west who's been there for 47 years, who played football with in high school, and a great guy. And great granddad and everything. And we differ in subjects. We differ in the way we see how Canada should function.
Yeah.
And but right now we're still able to articulate our differences, right? And enjoy each other's company without that level, without a level of vitriol. But I don't know how Americans are managing to do it.
It's pretty. Some of the climates down there is pretty tense, and I guess.
And I don't know how comedians are managing to do it if they want to tour. I mean, if you're touring south of the Mason-Dixon line and you're honing your act in New York City or Chicago, and you're hitting the road. I mean, I'm going to tell you, 99.9% of the time touring this country, I can even say 100%. It's been wonderful.
Yeah.
It's been great.
Yeah.
There's a generosity of spirit. There still exists that culture of inclusivity. of inclusiveness, rather.
Canada?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
I've been up to the Holy Lands of Canada's north as well. And
Where'd you go?
I went to the Yukon. I played the Yukon.
Very good.
I love it there.
Whitehorse?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I went into Atlin. Did you do time in Whitehorse?
I didn't.
Oh,
No,
oh.
I was just there last September. I have family in Inuvik.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, so I got to go see them for the first time.
I played Inuvik.
Did you?
I did a corporate gig up there.
Shut up!
I did so.
Fuck yeah.
The big theater in Inuvik.
Oh my god!
And I walked out of the tavern, and my buddy still makes a joke about it. My buddy came up with me, and I walked out of the tavern, and there was an ancient, there was an elder there. They were just walking down the street, and he looked up. He said, "Hey, Ron, welcome to Inuvik." Fantastic! It was
Oh my God, that was
fantastic.
pretty good.
Picture book moments.
It was great, but
Isn't the flight there wild? Did you have to stop down at Old Crow? And,
Old Crow, yeah.
Yeah, nice.
So I went back a couple of years after that, and I was so enamored with it.
It's beautiful.
We went into Aklavik National
Yep.
Park. Did you go in?
I didn't. No. I
You
will
guys gotta
though.
It's beautiful. I'd
Yeah,
love to
yeah.
go.
So I signed up with Canadian river expeditions, and I went down the Firth River.
And that's the most northern part, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We went through Ivavik National Park, right to the Beaufort Sea. And I said we were so close to Alaska, we could hear Sarah Palin practicing the alphabet. It was magic.
A.
And the
C.
wildflowers.
Yeah, we got to do that.
AC. And there were wildflowers running as far as the eye could see.
Oh.
What
And-
month? June? July?
This summer.
August it was.
August.
August.
perfect.
And
Lots
you
of
sit-
bugs?
No, we had the bugs one day.
Okay.
But I took my daughter when she was 15 kayaking to the Barren Lands, 3 hours flight north of Yellowknife. And we camped on the Barren Lands. And our guide was just a tool, though. The guy, Buddy's website, the guy's name was Tundra Tom. I put the story in my book.
Tundra
And
Tom.
Tundra Tom, just a piece of work.
Lord
he showed,
Tundra and
showed
Jesus.
up and didn't pick us up at the airport. Showed up late, giant pot belly,
Oh
and a
my.
fucking sweater on that the wolves that had looked like he'd stolen some carrion from the wolves and smeared it on his chest. Had 3 packs of Players Light in his right hand, 5 pepperoni sticks in the other, a glass eye, and slippers on. And my daughter's looking, she's like, say that's my back and say I'm my kid. She looks, she goes, I think our guide is here, Dad.
That's a picture.
You know,
book
she's eating a
moment.
$13 bagel from everything's expensive up there. Right?
Oh my God.
So
Anyway,
expensive.
ridiculous, but that was the first time. And
Beautiful
then-
country, eh?
and a beautiful country.
Yeah, everyone should go up.
How long did you stay in Inuvik?
We were only there for 2 days.
Oh,
yeah,
man,
I went
that's
with my 96-year-old grandpa.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah,
Peter.
it was.
Love Peter.
Is he still with us?
He is with us.
Oh!
Yeah.
He just moved into a home.
Yeah,
He
he
didn't
had
want
to
to go.
transition into a
So
space.
you've got somebody who lived through World War II in your life
Yeah.
in Holland.
No,
He's a BC boy.
There's some complexities. My biological father is still in Holland, and my dad, a Canadian dad, raised me, and that's his dad.
Oh, that's his dad.
Yeah.
So was he in World War II as well?
My
Your
dad.
granddad?
My grand. No, he was too young.
97?
95.
He'll be 97.
He would be too young.
Yeah.
He would be too young now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Close.
Yeah,
he
I
was in
grew
his
up with those
teens.
guys growing up in Halifax and stuff, and they always had stories for me and things. But I find nature so redemptive and so rejuvenating, and that's what I felt bad about with all those forest rangers getting the boot, right?
Yeah.
Because there's something to be said for there's something to be said for
Taking care of the land.
those iconic national parks and
Yeah,
everything.
for sure.
But
People, there's a thing that popped up over the last probably like 5 years called it's not new, but it became trendy in like the white woman community. Forest bathing.
oh, I heard about that.
Yeah, where
I've yet
it's
to
a type-
stumble on
it's-
that during a hike.
That would be cool.
5 nude women in a pond.
I
In their
think it is
natural-
just a hike. I think it's a fancy word for a hike. You go
You go on a hike and then you take your clothes off and find a pond.
Oh, Oh.
And
is
no,
that
no,
what it
don't.
is?
No, you sit in the pond in the woods.
That's how he's been imagining it. Don't ruin it for him.
Okay, yeah, that's what it is.
It's like, what do women do when they hang out? Nude pillow fights. Don't tell me anything more.
It's like one of those. It's like one of those penthouse foreign fantasies you'd read about. So I was hiking in the woods. I turned the corner. And there
A
were all these-
maiden. There was a maiden bathing in the forest.
Do you find wherever you go across Canada that a maiden?
forest bathing.
I feel
Funny.
like we need an animator for this show. Like
Yeah.
I want to see those 5 pepperoni sticks.
I
and
know
the 3
that
packs
was
of
you painted
Players
us
Light.
such a beautiful
Thank you.
picture.
We
Thank
will
you.
have an animator
Oh my
one
God.
day, and they'll bring that to
My
life.
imagination was going
Well,
wild.
if Penguin Random House had kept their promises of promoting my book, I might have been on the shelves longer than 2 weeks. But they were just like the CBC, right? They commission you.
yeah.
I was commissioned for my series. I was commissioned for the book.
That's good.
And then, yeah, it's very good.
It's a
But then,
campaign.
listen, man, we're a team here.
Yeah,
Why you fucking me around?
totally.
What's
Do your job.
What's your
Do
problem?
your part.
And then you'd have to talk to some, pinhead in publicity at CBC with a headset and wine teeth. And it's like, what am I even bothering
So now
for?
are you self-publishing?
I might self-publish next time too.
Yeah.
I've got another.
gonna write
I've
again.
got to see. I really enjoy it. And COVID helped because we were all in lockdown and there was a deadline. But I had an excellent editor, Tim Rostron, a British guy, and
Perfect.
And he was just an excellent editor. And,
How'd you find him?
he came with the
Okay.
yeah, and they were very
Beautiful.
patient, but I'd promote the book from the stage, and then I'd go to Indigo, and I couldn't find it in humor. You'd find it in the how to build a balsa wood aircraft section, or over in
No.
right, no, I'm just bullshitting.
Oh,
but
but
it
it
was
wasn't
never-
in front
no,
and
no,
center.
No, my picture was here. Here it is. Let's
Yeah.
show it up.
Yeah.
And my picture was on the front.
Hello.
But then you'd find the spine somewhere, in over by the candles, and whatever the hell.
Do you think that means someone took it from the humor, read bits of it until they found the candles, and
Yeah,
then
except yeah, exactly. You know where this belongs?
you want to put it
This
next.
belongs in how to raise a chimp section, or
this
whatever.
is this is
Anyway.
on. We have a bookshelf, and this
Beautiful.
is on our bookshelf.
Thank you
at
very
home.
much.
Absolutely.
And it was fun, and but I think the next one will have more bite.
Okay.
I think I was like you say with stand up. I was writing for the audience still.
Yeah.
I wasn't writing for me as much as I should have.
Mm-hmm.
Although there's a couple stories in there I'm very proud of. The one with my uncle who was homeless and on the streets of Toronto back in the 60s, when he was on the sauce, who I'm named after, and who was a classic. This is Cape Breton's sense of humor. So he'd had a stroke years ago, and I went to see him in the old folks' home, and he was immobile. And he was into bed, but still like these agate blue eyes, just this searing blue eyes, and just so sharp.
Yeah.
Anyway, this other fellow walks by the room, and he stands looking in the room, and he doesn't look. He's not as old as my uncle or anything like that. And Ronald looks at him. He goes, "That's the son of a whore that stole my slippers, boy." No, he's
His
he's
slippers got stolen.
yeah, he's prostrate in the bed.
Oh.
And I said, "Does he have Alzheimer's?" He looks at me. He says, "I don't know, but he fucking well will if I gets a hold of him." Hey, I'm fucking dying. I tell that joke, but it's like my dad when he had 24 hours to live. I'm sorry, I'm laughing now, but we brought him into palliative care, and he had the perfect storm of renal cell carcinoma and COPD, but they hadn't given him the morphine yet. So I just drove my mom and sister back to the house because they've been sitting sentry duty all day. And I said, I'm going to go back to see how he's doing. And I went to his side of the bed, and the nurse was just administering a catheter to the end of his penis. Hold on. And he looks up at me, he goes, "Ronnie, am I ever happy to see you?" hold it, points down at his crotch and says, "Look what this beautiful young nurse just picked up for me at Canadian Tire." 24 hours to live, still looking for a laugh. Winnie. And that to me
That's a new
is the
thing to do.
purpose of us.
Yes.
That's what we have to do. Right up till the last minute, we got to be swinging for the fences, and I think that's a good place to end. Thank you.
That was so good.
Thank you very much.
Bless you.
Thanks, pal. Thank you very much.
Come on, let me get one of
Thank
those.
you, brother.
Thank you, brother. Oh, bless you.
See you, everybody.
Buy the book. We'll link
Good-
it below.
Good luck with whatever you're doing.
Bless you.
See ya.
And
Thank
we'll
you.
link your Instagram below as
Go
well on
follow
your website and
Ron.
all of those things.
That was legendary.
Thank you.
Subscribe, tell a friend. Bless you. Thank you.
Share this with someone who
Always
needs to
good
hear
to
that.
have the youngsters following you.